Hello, everybody, and welcome to Podfluxxx Episode 7, Take 2. That's right. As always, it's me, K-Fresh Kevin Fulton. With me, my best good friend, the Bubba to my forest, Ricky Reyes. Ricky, what's going on there today, bro?
Not much, man. How are you?
We're doing all right. We're all getting over colds up here in Long Island, and everyone's starting to feel better, so that's working out good. I
Nice.
did today get my account suspended on Twitter for the next 7 days.
Oh, what'd you do now?
Uh, there's a certain Republican representative from the state of Georgia that I told they would probably be better off at the bottom of a active volcano,
Mm,
and Elon Musk did not like that at all.
nah.
So with like a second after I hit send, gone. But that's nor here nor there. That's what they say. But my account is locked, so I will be posting this video from the new Podfluxxx Twitter account,
Nice. Yeah.
which I started a couple of days ago, and you have yet to follow back.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty par for the course as far as Ricky Reyes goes on Podfluxxx. But it is a Podfluxxx podcast that you can find at Podfluxxx. That's PODFLUXXX on Twitter.com. But anyway, Ricky, let's get to some wrestling. We ended last week's episode, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something I forgot a week or two prior, which was when we were initially talking about All In, All Out, when was going to be what and when would they actually back to back. And I said to you, that had to be a joke or something that somebody said just to, you know, be tongue in cheek. And then it turned out to be a real thing that All Out will be the week after All In. And we at first were like, they wouldn't do something like that. That's, absolutely preposterous. Why would they run their biggest show ever and then follow it up a week later with what can argue, no matter how many people you put in the building, compared to what they're about to do at Wembley Stadium, cannot be considered uh, a big show. So, what do you think they're thinking? What do you think they're planning? What would you do? What's on your mind?
I definitely wouldn't do a week later after such a huge event because the way they've lined it up now, Wembley is the buffer for the the next week's paper, the All In or however All Out, whatever,
Right.
uh, however they're doing it, right? Because Wembley is first.
Right. Now this was confirmed by AEW's head of legal, Mega Parikh. Are you familiar?
I've
You heard the
heard
name?
I've heard of the Mega name. Yeah, I guess she's supposed to, is she like HR for the Jaguars or something, or is that her?
I think she's got her fingers in the pudding for all of the Khan family's
Oh, yeah.
business endeavors or whatever
Okay.
they're up to. But
Okay.
she had done an interview, and in the interview she said that All Out would be the week after. Now, what I'm wondering, right, is you've got All In. You've got a stadium that last I heard was like we had said was around 65,000 give or take tickets, and now they're saying that they're setting up for 74,000 in the stadium. Um, like what do you do? What's the price point there?
I don't know. I know I did hear that uh, what they're claiming that they're sold, but the seats aren't filled. I guess like it's the brokers that are
Right.
getting have a like the tickets have been sold, yes. So the money is good. However, people haven't necessarily filled of the 65,000 seats.
So
From
you're saying that they've been bought by like
a third
third
party,
party, yeah.
right? So,
So
which is
SeatGeeks and
fine.
shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, the money's there.
Right. They're
That's
getting
what,
paid regardless.
right. That's what I'm saying. But like now you got to fill it up. You still got to fill it up. So, uh, what do we do? Do we do this with two different directions? We're doing these angles for Wembley, and then we go a different direction for, is it All Out? I guess the
Right.
pay-per-view after, right? So like, or do you use Wembley? That's what I'm saying. Like, do you use Wembley to set up All Out? Which
I'm
sounds
wondering
ridiculous.
what they're expecting.
Right.
They can possibly be expecting you to spend $50 on Sunday for one pay-per-view,
Right.
and then turn around the next week and
And
hand them another $50.
Right.
It's just it's almost like arrogant of them. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of shitty to be like,
it's just not it's not smart.
Out like this, so you'll have to pay us twice. Like it's
just not a smart move. Again, like that's what I'm saying. How do you figure that to work? Because both pay-per-views have to be a big deal. Right. And I mean, the spectacle and making it, a pro wrestling event in that size stadium in that country is going to be a big deal. I get it. So are you seriously saying that you're just going to put like a solid wrestling show, maybe with an angle or two in there? Like, how do you gear up for the next week,
right.
off something so big? I don't know. It's, I don't know if it's arrogance or it's just like that was the only time they can get the stadium, so they just pulled the trigger and got it. And then someone said, "Hey, by the way, the next week we're here," and then realized, "Oh, all right. Now what?" Like, I don't know. And then their booking is all over the place to begin with, so one's got to be more important than the other.
Yeah. So how do you?
Yeah.
How do they choose? How do they?
Again, the tickets are gone, yes, but you still got to get the people interested enough to come to the event, right? Mm-hmm. So now you start booking angles to build to Wembley, but the very next week build on top of that,
right?
Like building up to 60,000, an event for 60,000 people that you want to make them happy. Then the next 7 days later, we're in a smaller venue on their WrestleMania type of event that you would think, like what do you do? Like, what do you do with MJF? In those 2 weeks, which is the most important thing, is as the world champion, like, what is he going to be doing?
Right.
Do you use Wembley as someone comes in and challenges, or is someone only challenging for All Out and not All In?
And then you got to remember that they're going to have, and we'll get into some of this a little later on, but they're going to come off of Wembley, and then they're going to have 3 television shows.
Yeah.
In that 7 days between that and the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, when do they go to London? Do they go right after Dynamite? And who's doing Rampage? Is Rampage pre-tape? Yeah, and then by that time, Collision will be that Saturday as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they start July? Is that right?
June 17th.
June
starts.
So, are you taping everything? Is everything in the can that week, and then you just go for that huge event? Because are you taping there? Or there's a lot of stuff here that I don't know how well they've thought this out. And this is new for
everyone there.
For everyone there, except maybe like a Moxley or somebody and Brian, and Cesaro, who get this traveling schedule down, it's not a big deal to them. But so many live and sometimes taped. How do you put what Rampage is? What 1 hour, Collisions 3 hours of TV
It's
that you
fine.
need that
Their whole television catalog now is going to be 5 hours of wrestling a week.
a week? Yes.
So now, go ahead.
Is Tony Khan really writing all of this, and is Collision and Ramp and Dynamite completely different? And if that's so, is one leading to Wembley and one leading to All Out? Does that make sense to do that? Like what's happening here? Like,
well, right there, if they do, if they do make one go, one's going all in and
right.
one's going all out,
right?
One's going to be better.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
one's going to seem more important,
right?
So you're already shooting one of your products in the foot. Now you've got you got to know that he's going to put everybody and their mother on this Wembley Stadium show, right?
Yeah, of course.
So now how much do you think it costs to fly an entire roster to London, right?
Yeah. For how many days? That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Fly them all back, get them all on TV for Wednesday, okay? Right. Or I don't know if they're still doing the Universal tapings for Ring of Honors. I really think they were doing that shit on a Tuesday. All right? So now you're taking these guys who have never worked a schedule like this.
Yeah.
You're putting them on a pay-per-view in another time zone after I don't know, how long is the flight to London? You've done it, right?
Well, from New Jersey, it's 8 hours.
All right.
So across the Atlantic, it's 8.
Okay, so an 8-hour flight if everybody is in the armpit of America, right? And then you're putting them on a show. They're going to sleep, waking up the next morning, coming back, working the day after. Okay,
right.
A taping for Friday, working Saturday, and then running another pay-per-view.
Yeah, at this rate, just expect to be living out of your bag for at least 2 weeks, because why go home for anything at that point? Just stay where you're supposed to be. But what's most confusing to me is or what bothers me, I guess, is that the fans are going to shit on one show or the other at the end of all this. Well, because like you said, one is going to be better than the other. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, because you're going to do probably 2 different types of events, you would imagine, and one is going to seem like it's better than the other, but it's just, I don't know, there's just so much that's going to be happening with them, at least that week. It just seems like too much.
But real wrestling fans are going to pick one over the other and be honest and say, this one's the shits, that one was great, this was good, that was great, or pick certain things from each shows. But, the real AEW, basement dwelling bridge trolls are going to tell you that everything was fantastic.
Right.
And Tony Khan could take a shit on the top rope, and they're going to tell you it was made of pure gold and there was nothing better than that had ever happened, with 7 stars in the Tokyo Dome.
Right. Exactly.
So there's not going to be a lot of, you never get real honest fact out of a lot of that fan base to begin with.
Now, is the end of May they have a pay-per-view? Is that right? Is that the
Double or Nothing?
Okay, and then the next thing is this week, that week, right? Or do they have something else?
I'm pretty certain that Double or Nothing, and what's the Night of Champions are the same weekend. So one is Saturday and one is Sunday, and that's not this weekend. I believe it's next week. Okay.
Next. Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
So they've got they've got their Double or Nothing with Max and the Pillows, and
Mhm.
then they've got no pay-per-view scheduled until Wembley Stadium.
Okay. All right. Because obviously that they've mentioned very little except on social media, right? Like, do they mention Wembley Stadium much on the shows like Dynamite and stuff?
They fly the graphic in and out, and Excalibur, we're coming to Wembley Stadium, in his
Yeah.
basement cartoon voice, whatever. But there's not one match announced, which it's at the end of August. I wouldn't expect to know an entire card for it right now. Well, you've got another pay-per-view to get through first, and then
Right.
however many months of TV,
Yeah.
and you're adding new shows. But it's selling on the back of the fact that it's their first time going to London. It's
Right.
their, biggest stadium show. I don't know what Arthur Ashe holds, but it's nowhere near,
Mm.
the amount of people that Wembley Stadium and all. It's in,
Right.
it's great. That's a great stadium for a Dynamite, or you know what I mean, for what they use that building for, perfect for what the purpose that they're trying to do with it is.
Right.
But this is a horse of another color,
Yeah.
and I just think running the next pay-per-view right after it is going to make fans have to, first of all, choose which one they're going to buy in some cases,
Yeah.
and it's going to make, I feel like, All In Wembley Stadium is going to make All Out look super, super unimportant.
Right.
Now granted, the building that you hold All Out in, whether you hold it there in September or you hold it there in November, is going to hold, house the same amount of people. But just coming off the weekend before, having 70,000 as opposed to a 3/4 full NBA arena
Hmm.
is, it's even if, as a successful entity as it could be, it's just going to make it look, less than glamorous.
Yeah, I know WWE, they've never done it like that, obviously, but I think they had points where they were doing Raw and SmackDown branded um pay-per-views,
Right.
and even those felt, as like a casual fan, one's going to seem way better than the other, because there were 2 weeks was still too close.
I can tell you straight up that I never sat down on purpose to watch a SmackDown branded pay-per-view back when they were
Right.
doing it that way.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. It's just a lot. Like, I don't know how they get through all the other tapings that they also have to do with, the collisions and Rampage, and not neglect them.
Right.
It's like, hey, I mean, 9 times out of 10, the guys are going to be like, let's just not get hurt out there tonight so we can get to,
The next thing
to,
tomorrow.
exactly. So that's the problem with car wreck style wrestling that all these nerds like to watch, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I get the reasoning for doing big stuff, but a Wembley's where you pull out the big stuff, like, not when what's his name broke his leg on the ROH
Right.
pay-per-view. ROH wasn't about stunt wrestling. We had stunt wrestlers there, but they were trying to show that they could wrestle. That was Ring of Honor, and it's not that anymore. I mean, I know
I
it's different and everything else, but it's just they've messed it all up.
I saw a clip on Twitter today from it looked like it might have, I didn't watch the whole thing yet. It looked like it might have been the Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett.
Hmm.
And I don't know who they were out there with, but there was furniture involved, and it had the garbage wrestling atmosphere and look. I
Hmm.
mean, I could watch the whole match later and completely change my perspective on it. But like, you know, you see a clip like that under the Ring of Honor banner and you're kind of just like, this isn't really what Ring of Honor was about.
Because how is it different than what we're seeing Wednesday, you know, or like on a pay-per-view or something when they start pulling all that crap out?
Honestly, how is this new Ring of Honor iteration any different now than, you know, is it Ring of Honor Dark Elevation? You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, but speaking of their new TV show, I guess we buried the lead a little bit here at the Warner Brothers Discovery Television upfronts. I guess it was like the TV industry, what is it, NAFTY or something, where they all come out and they announce their lineups for the next upcoming seasons and this, that, and the next thing. And Warner Brothers Discovery finally announced AEW Saturday Night Collision, which I wish I could see a side-by-side of the Collision logo and the Nitro logo.
Yeah.
Because it's damn near the same exact thing.
Yeah, I thought that too when I saw it.
I was like, and then I saw somebody on Twitter was like, oh, I hope they put that on the canvas in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's being said that it's going to be a 2-hour TV show. I think they're going to be live one week and maybe tape the following week. Right? That was like a schedule that SmackDown was doing at one point.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if that's confirmed yet. But anyway, the major part of this announcement that everybody was waiting for, 2 major parts actually, right? I'm going to start with the smaller one, and then we'll get to the bigger, more important one later. But Uncle Dave and, you know, all alike were talking about the TV rights deals and how much money that the new show was going to bring to the table for AEW. And I found it interesting that there was zero talk of money. I mean, obviously, they're not doing the show for free.
Right.
But all the numbers and shit that Uncle Dave and the nerds and everybody have been kicking around on Twitter for the last few weeks since, you know, Tony Khan filed the AEW Collision trademark with a spelling error. But did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, the 1L.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But there's been no talk of any money, any rights fees, any type of deal with the programming for this show.
Right.
So now I'm looking at it like, all right, it's 8 to 10 on Saturday nights. Is this maybe a make good from TNT from initially moving AEW off of TNT to TBS? Do you remember when that happened?
Not really. I mean, I heard about it, obviously, but was that? I mean,
basically, Dynamite started on TNT, and then the NHL playoffs came around,
right?
And it jerked around the Dynamite schedule a little bit, and you know, between the NHL playoffs and AEW Dynamite, one of them gets, you know, 7 figures of viewers, and then the other one is Dynamite. So they moved it over onto TBS so they wouldn't have to restrict the, you know, change the programming, the time slot and shit like that. And then they threw them Rampage on TNT at, you know, 10 o'clock at night or whatever the fuck time it comes on or whatever. But I'm wondering if this is like kind of like, well, here's the real amount of time we offered you on this network for this television show.
Yeah, again, it goes back to, I mean, like, what's really going on with how they see this. Like, obviously, I assume that the TV people think it's a good thing. Maybe it's just they see it as cheap content, like keep
Right.
it right, keep a certain part of their audience there, and it's maybe not as expensive as licensing NHL or baseball and basketball. It's got to be, because I know I remember a few years back, NBA and Major League Baseball, somehow on Twitter there was like how much each league gets paid from
Right.
the networks, and it was, hundreds and hundreds of millions easily, if not more, for the licensing of those. So I mean, they're kind of getting a little bit of that audience with pro wrestling, I guess. Like the male.
Well, here's the other thing you got to remember, right? Those TNT, TBS, they're like syndication networks also, right?
Right.
So every time they show an episode of The Big Bang Theory, they got to send a check to Sheldon Cooper,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or every time they show an episode of Seinfeld,
Yeah.
Newman's got to get paid.
Right.
Right. So the more original programming
Yeah, of
that
course.
costs them less to produce
Mm-hmm.
saves them from having to send money through the syndication to all these other casts from all these other shows.
Right. Yeah. But the thing is, more doesn't mean it's better.
Right.
And like Dynamite, like we don't like it, and the casual fan might see it as like a new shiny toy the first time they see it, and then after the second and third time they've watched it, it's like, that type of stuff gets old, because of this, like we had talked about, like not gaining new fans. They're just keeping their own fans happy.
Right.
And you would think that their mindset would be to attract more people and more, especially if they're gaining another show. You would think,
Right. You think the network would, first of all, would prefer that.
well, yeah, you would assume that the talks are, hey, if we can get this over 1 million consistent, over, if you can average over 1 million for a quarter, we can bump you up on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
It should have been maybe, I don't know, maybe talked about. I don't know. I would think, but are they just happy and content with like 800,000? That's pretty steady.
Yeah.
And we don't have to pay them out. We just pay them this, and then that's it. Like you said about the residual checks come, we don't, I mean, I don't know. I'm just assuming that it's just cheap content for the networks.
Right.
The problem is Ring of Honor fell into their lap, or they bought it. Now they have it. What are they doing with it? The only one thing that they know how to do on their other show, just making it, a circus show, just
Right.
flips and, furniture and, nothing that means anything. It's like, oh, they had Zack Sabre Jr. and Samoa Joe face off. Nobody knows who Zack Sabre Jr. is or cares. You know what I mean? Like, what do you? Again, it's just for the 10,000 viewers that have New Japan or ROH club or whatever that is, Honor Club.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Those are the only people that are like, oh well, I'll keep it another month till I see this match, and then you're going to give them another match that they might keep it another month. That's all they're trying to do.
You listen to the Eric Bischoff podcast, right?
From time to time, yeah.
Did you listen very early on when it first started?
Yeah, the earlier ones I did.
Okay. Do you remember one of the things that Eric Bischoff, when AEW first started, one of the first things he said as almost like a plea to Tony Khan from his show, said, when they offer you the second show, do not fucking take it.
Really? I don't remember that.
He was saying how the addition of Thunder played such a huge role in the downfall of WCW. He says they weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
It was, foisted onto them, and that, they didn't have the money to staff it, to shoot it, to write it. It stretched everybody so thin.
Yeah.
That it really, really hurt WCW. And one of the things he said was he went out and was looking for stars for it.
Right. That's why Brett was brought on, right?
Right. That's why they brought Brett.
Right.
That way they had different stars on Thursday
right.
than they did on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And now Collision, they want to have different stars on Saturday than they have on Wednesday. And the star that everybody thought that they were getting
is not there.
CM Punk was nowhere to be found in the graphic for Collision, in the press release for Collision. I don't even think they typed out those 6 individual letters anywhere in that press release.
Now,
they avoided C's, M's, P's, U's, N's, and K's as much as they possibly could in that press release.
Did the Time Warner people mention him? Didn't somebody comment?
Yes. Now,
so that's not a good sign.
It was stated later that a Warner, with a WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery, representative said that the Collision deal was never in any way tied to CM Punk. Now, I don't know if this executive knows how to work, right?
Right.
I don't know if this is a working executive or a shooting executive. But they're saying that Punk had nothing to do with it. And then I read another thing that I don't want to say. I think it might have been Mike Johnson, but I don't want to say it was Mike Johnson and be wrong. But I read somebody said that everything was all ready. I don't know why I'm doing Donald Trump hands, but everything was all ready to go. And then Punk basically found out that they had no plan of bringing Ace Steel back with him. And he, turned around and walked back to the couch.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not.
Ace Steel?
Yeah, I know Ace.
Do you want to spend a minute maybe speaking about the person or the character traits of one Ace Steel?
Yeah, Ace Steel is a lot like me and Punk and just like a straight up what you see is what you get, he's not there to sugarcoat anything. That's why I thought he was, in my opinion, besides a Dean Malenko or somebody of that level, I would have thought he would have been a perfect agent for AEW because he does have that stern and intimidating presence. So if you got somebody like that standing over you while you're putting your match together, I was praying that 9 times out of 10, Ace would be like, yes, that doesn't work for me, brother. Like, do it this way. And you would figure that some of the guys were taking notes and, on how to, I know. I mean, I'm hoping, I was hoping. And when everything went down, it all kind of sounded like, yeah, like I could see all that happening, like from what we've gathered from bits and pieces of the situation. And I know him and Punk, they've always been super, super close. Like, so Ace is a good dude and would be extremely valuable to that company if they were really planning to educate the guys and break out new stars and develop new stars. But man, I don't know what they're doing.
You
it's so
see,
all over the place.
could you see Punk walking away from the table over something like that?
I mean, maybe the thing about Punk is he's loyal to the people that are loyal to him. Uh, for example, you know, when I moved to Pennsylvania, I moved into his house and we lived together for a short time. And even when he got called up to Raw and he was doing all that stuff and ECW and and everything, we text and we would talk less and less, as the years went. Well, then I started getting used as extra to do extra work when they came to the East Coast. Finally, it took me a couple few years because my in originally was Tommy Dreamer when he was doing talent relations.
Right.
So he's the one that originally booked me when I was living in California. But then by the time I moved to the East Coast, they had to put a new guy in charge, and he didn't know me. And he was instructed by, from what I was told, Laurinaitis to hire models or bigger people, taller people, not indie guys. So
Right.
we had the indie black guy for a little while, there. So, anyways,
What
they
indie black guy?
black eye, like
Oh, my
it
bad.
was a like WWE just had this knock on anybody that did wrestling before WWE, so it was just they didn't want to use you at all if you had knowledge of pro wrestling. And it didn't matter where. But then but what I was getting at was I finally got, scheduled to go to WWE. So I went and I hadn't talked to Punk in probably a couple years. I certainly hadn't seen him in, I don't know, maybe let's say 3-4 years, if not, longer. And this was when he had his bus, and he did the whole, um, held up Vince, last second before signing, before
Yeah.
the Money in the Bank. So this was after that. This was, when he came back at SummerSlam or whatever, when they did the double belt thing, and then he went
Right.
on that long
He was
400-day
made
run.
man. Made
Yeah,
man.
yeah. This was when he was, mega superstar. So I didn't know how he was going to act with me. I didn't know if he was just be like, "Hey man, how's it going?" And walk away. So I was excited to see him. I was going to approach it like just another day, and sure enough, he came walking around the corner and had like, I don't know, 3-4 people in like suits, like everyone trying to talk to him. And he's just, frumping around by himself. And he turned the corner and he goes to give me like a big hug, elbows one of the little nerds next to him, and pulls me in tight. And he just whispered, "I'm so happy to see you here. I'm so happy to see you," And it was like, then we just started bullshitting about working out, not even like wrestling or anything else. And he's like, "Oh," started just talking to me while people are like clearly standing there like waiting to talk to him, like no
About
one
like
else.
super important shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing else was more important than catching up with me, like, "How you been?" And it was nice to see that. And another person that's like that as well is Joe. So it's like those guys are that way. And same thing with Ace. There's another guy, Vic Capri, who's like a Chicago wrestling like legend. I knew Vic through Ace and Punk and those guys, and they would always say, "Man, you versus Vic would be awesome. You guys are similar in style and size." And I finally got to wrestle Vic last year in Chicago, and similar situation. I've known of him, and we've talked through like, text and stuff like that, but we've never met. And we just sat down and started talking and shooting the shit about, working out, life and, wrestling and traveling and so forth. And all those guys are just like that. Those groups of guys are just like straight up, like if they like you forever, until
Right.
you do something, obviously, drastically bad or wrong to the other one. But I
Until
could
there's a
I could
lawsuit filed.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, I could definitely see. I mean, the door's not closed for good, right? It never really
Right.
is. So I could see him shutting it for this moment and being like, oh, okay. And then
Yeah.
it's not working out. And every top guy's brought their friends along, you know? I mean, look at Brett. He worked with Owen. When else was Owen gonna get that shot?
Right.
He didn't get it with Sean,
Nope.
you know? And those were the money matches right there. If you wanted that story's right there, right? I mean, how do we not go with
Look right there at AEW.
right?
You got Jericho and Luther. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Omega Nakazawa. The Bucks and the guy in the rainbow suit.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is Ace is valuable as, you know, not just a lackey in the ring.
Well, yes.
His value is going to be telling people what they can and can't do. And that is what I think the Buckaroos and all them don't like and don't want.
Right.
You know, and I met Adam Page one time in North Carolina, and I didn't say hi to him. I did my typical, went to the back locker room,
Stared at your phone with a mean face.
Yeah, just looked down, did my job, and got out. You know, and I remember, you know, he was, you know, telling all the people's stories, all the things, and I just, you know, and I just got that feeling like he's probably one of those guys that, you know, even if he had a bad match, he doesn't want to know about how it could be better.
High fives all around. That was great.
Right. Like, yeah. Like, oh, I will, you know, sorry. When guys come back from a match and all you hear is sorry about, you know what kind of match they had. Like, you don't even have to, you know, on the flip side of it, you know, when guys are like high-fiving each other, it's like, man, that was easy. You know, that was simple. That was fun. That's what you want to hear when you get to the back.
Did I get you with the?
Yeah, right. JD, go to the hospital.
Dude, JD went to the hospital 2 months ago, right?
Of course he did.
So, timing the match, right? And I'm sitting there at the table, and they do this like it was like a step up in Zaguri, and he was on the apron or something. And of course he gets up and he's got 3 eyebrows and he's leaking. And I write down the time cue, right? 3:50 hard way, right there on my format, right? Because I think it's hysterical.
Yeah.
And at like 7 minutes in the match, he was out on the floor and he caught a dive and they just thudded like, yeah. And so I wrote down 7 minutes, broken ribs or whatever. So afterwards, I go to see if he's all right. And he's like, oh, I shot him off. And I think when he kicked his leg up, he kicked me in the face. I was like, no, dude, it was the Inseguri. He put his toes through the back of your head. And he was like, no, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. They wrapped this thing around him. They sent him to the hospital for stitches. He goes to the hospital, but apparently like forgot his insurance card, so then had to go back home, go back to the hospital for like stitches he probably didn't even need. It was I'll send you the picture in a little because I got a text. And then last month he's like, yeah, it turns out it was the Inseguri. I was like, yeah, no shit. Like I'm sitting there, like my job is to watch. Like
You're right.
I know exactly when it was. He just can't stop getting hospitalized or bleeding. Yeah. Last month he kept all of his blood inside of his body.
Oh,
but
good.
He whacked this. The one dude was like, you know, because before the match, I was like, you ever worked JD before? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh, dude, you're in for it tonight. And he was like, JD's like, no, you're giving him the wrong idea, whatever. And then the first time JD makes contact with him, he duffs the guy in the back of the fucking head. And so after in the back after the match, the guy's like, man, the first shot in the back of that. And JD was like, yeah, no. Oh, man. So I booked him again for next, next. And anyway, where were we?
Yeah, Ace Steel. Like, yeah, he's a good dude. I could see Punk at least stop negotiating or talking for a little bit, at least for now.
I have a Punk conspiracy theory on this, if you're interested.
Yeah.
All
what
right.
is it?
The old man, Vince McMahon.
Mm.
How long is his deal for that he signed his new contract? Do you happen to know?
Was it 1 or 2 years? 2? Yeah, I thought it was short. Yeah.
So I'm thinking Punk went around. He made the loops. What, like a month ago? He showed up at Raw.
Definitely did. Yeah.
Talked trips. Showed up at Impact just to make it look like nothing was up. I think he's just gonna keep Tony trying to fish for him until his deal is up. By the time his deal is up, the old man will be out, and he can go back to where wrestling at least tries to make sense.
I just feel like him going in that building, that opened some sort of communication for sure.
Yeah.
Because nobody just let him in.
Right.
And then, hey, let me check with Vince, the whole make your rounds and then politely
and he
exit.
Was the one that initiated.
Right.
You know what I mean? He stuck out the olive branch there, which was the last thing he expected.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. This whole Punk thing is, first off, now we're at a point where it's getting old now. Like,
yeah.
So we're over it. The only thing that he can do now that's going to shock the world
is show up
in WWE again.
Right.
That's the only thing. If he shows back up in AEW, it's going to be like, oh, hey, he's back, whatever. But how long is that going to last? 3 weeks later, it's like, he's in there with guys that, emulated him and look up to him. He's not in there with big stars. They're guys that want to be big stars. That's the difference,
Yeah.
And it's
feel like there's the people there who want him there, that they can learn from him or want to work with him, want to make good wrestling with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people there that don't want him there because people are going to learn from him and want to work with him and have good wrestling with him.
Right.
Like, but that's no Punk for Collision so far, unless it was a working executive.
Yeah, could be.
I'll tell you one thing. Right now, that show was tentatively booked for Chicago.
I heard, yeah.
If that switches venues, then that pretty much tells you everything you need to know.
That's, yeah. Yep.
But speaking of switching venues, we're going to switch venues here a little bit. And we're going to talk just a little bit about WWE. Did you happen to see SmackDown this past weekend or anything from SmackDown?
No. I was looking Friday at night to see if anything notable happened, and I didn't see anything.
So you didn't catch the clip on the Bloodline?
Oh, the nudge to yes. So yes, now I remember. So I did see that because everybody was talking about it, and I thought, all right, I didn't know what they meant because everybody was like, oh, we bumped them or whatever. So I watched it and I was like, wow. And that crowd reaction was insane. Like it's there. And then I thought about what you said right there. I was like, man, this is looking more and more like he's going to be the guy to come out of this big.
Well, yeah. I mean, the WWE writing staff, if you're out there, you can get me on Twitter at
in a week.
Yeah, it's 7 days. It's 6 days and 28 hours. At Refresh, or I'm on Instagram at Freshomatic. That's fine. But them just doing that, I feel like kind of shoots my theory in the foot because that was a big seed to plant.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. They've kept Roman interesting even after WrestleMania.
After everything else went cold.
Yeah. I mean, I was okay with him winning and would prefer that he kept the belt um, at WrestleMania. So I like that whole thing. My concern was, what do we do with the rest of this angle? And they've definitely, they haven't changed directions by any means, but they just kind of like veered off to the left or something.
Yeah.
They're just taking it a new direction, which
lanes.
yeah, definitely. And it's definitely interesting still. So this is good. I like it. I like that that AEW was trying to do this whole thing with, was it Jericho and Adam Cole, where they were like looking at each other or whatever, and it just wasn't getting over. There was no ooh, there was no like, we can't wait for this. But then Roman and Solo bump into each other, and the whole place is like, shit's going down. Yeah, and it was like, and then what I really liked was Roman like hopped out of the ring. You know what I mean? Like he didn't hog up the moment. He didn't step on Solo's toes by staying in there. He like took off like what the fuck, Man, that one gave me chills, because when watching him like kind of like not scurry away, but like, like almost like stomp away mad like a little kid or something was like different, and it told more of that story, pushed that story along in a big way, I thought, because it left Solo all by himself to just absorb it. You know what I mean? Like he didn't do nothing. It just let the moment be.
He hardly even like raised an eyebrow at him.
Right.
It was kind of just like,
yeah.
And just let Roman do all the selling of the.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he might be the next big guy coming out of this thing for sure.
Yeah. And then Raw, they had Raw was in Greensboro, man, and it was just the most un-Greensboro wrestling show you could have in Greensboro. It was like they had like a battle royal to see who would fight Gunther at Night of Champions.
Oh, that's with Ali won it.
Yes.
Somebody wrote like Ali got fireworks, like question mark, and like for winning the battle royal, and everybody was on Twitter.
Of course, they're gearing up for Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, and obviously Mustafa Ali wins the battle royal. Indashir shows up with Jinder Mahal. It's just like it's like get the brown guys, all the brown guys,
right? Yep.
Cedric Alexander, not you.
Not that brown. I need less brown.
Shit.
Yeah, for sure.
But fuck. But I don't know. At Night of Champions, man, it's a 2-match show, really.
Yeah, it's the tag and then AJ and Seth, obviously.
Or maybe if you're interested in Brock and Cody, a 3-match show, but
I wasn't interested in the first match show, but of them, that does nothing for me, and it does nothing for either one. Like,
right.
It doesn't help that Brock makes it abundantly clear he's got one foot out the door at any time.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do with Brock that you haven't already done with him in the past? How many years has he been back? Almost 10 years now.
Right.
And it's
this time has been like the most reoccurring, though. It's becoming painfully obvious that there's like no other demands for him anyplace else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what you're rinse and repeat. It's, at this point, you've done that so many times now. Now he's not special anymore.
Right. He's one of the boys again.
Yeah, he's just another one of the guys, and it's just, I don't know. But that's a 2-match show. I'm interested for the match purpose. I want to watch obviously AJ and Seth, but the angle purpose, I really want to see what happens in that tag.
Right.
And hope that gets moved along in a big way. So what are we going to there? SummerSlam next, or
Money in the Bank, I believe.
oh, that's right, that's right. So okay, yeah.
Which
Uh,
now
wait,
going
Money in the Bank for what? Do they get the pick now?
yes, I believe they probably get to pick, which then could bring the whole Cody and Roman story full circle if Cody wins the Money in the Bank. So he can
What
hang
if
on to that
Solo? What
shit
if
until rest.
Solo's in Money in
Oh
the Bank?
man. Yo, but I have a feeling that Solo might be a unified world tag team champion at the end of that night.
I also saw like a speculation, of course. It's supposed to be Solo and Roman against the Usos at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that would be great. That's what I was saying last week. If they win the
Yeah,
titles here,
but can
or
you
if
stretch out Solo teetering that long?
the 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 whole Solo deal could have been a red herring this whole time.
Yeah, but now it's a little more,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, ideally, yes, I would want maybe that's the night he turns, but I mean, who knows? But
It's
anyways, Night of Champions, yeah, the the angle that I want to see play out and how it goes will definitely be that. But I mean, I'm assuming it's going on Seth. Uh, I don't know. And then what does AJ do? Is he really going to feud with that other guy from NXT that just showed up?
Grayson
Gallus
Waller.
Waller, yeah.
I don't know. I saw one Grayson Waller entrance and I was like, he's wearing boxing shorts, and I immediately
Yeah, I mean
turned on like Planet of the Apes or something. I was
he
just there
did
was
a thing with AJ in NXT,
yes.
and then he's doing it again here, and that's kind of, in the background right now
Right. And
while
then they
he
did the JD McDonough lost his shit on Dolph Ziggler during that battle royal.
Mhm.
He was Jordan Devlin.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So
they're
he would,
calling him JD McDonough now.
so they're saying something about him being in Judgment Day at some point.
Maybe there was kind of like this little interesting thing with him and Balor, kind of like
Uh,
McDonough was leaving the building and Balor was like watching him leave, like
okay.
you know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
they're like gonna try and make an impact with him by having him work with Ziggler, but like literally everybody who works for WWE has beat Ziggler in the
Yeah.
last. Where the fuck is Bobby Roode?
He had his spine fused twice apparently.
Oh, thanks for coming, Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
That'll do
Um
it.
so they apparently went back in and had to do it again. I don't know the details on it, but his second one. So they're saying 2024 for him, if at all.
Really, that's unfortunate.
Yes. Yeah, that sucks. So
All right, and last, hey man, there's a big New Japan Strong show today.
yep.
You want to chat us up on it?
Yeah, that Long Beach show at the Pyramid. That's where they did the um Super J Cup there, I think, when like I think Rey Mysterio was on that show. Um Liger and everybody a few years back. That's like a really cool building if you haven't seen it. But yeah, that'll be big. And I'm liking right now that they're making that strong division its own thing. So they introduced the tag belts, and I think the Aussie Open won them, and then
Mm-hmm.
now they have their women's division championship. So I'm assuming Mercedes will win that, uh,
Right.
coming off her loss for the IWGP belt.
That Super J Cup was in 2019 that they held it in Los Angeles at the Long Beach Water Pyramid.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So
So Now we were talking about the Strong Women's Championship a couple of weeks ago. It's a 4-person tournament.
Yeah.
So we got Mercedes Monet versus, I'm about to destroy this girl's name, Stephanie Vacquer.
Yeah, from CMLL, right?
She's
Yeah.
the girl from CMLL.
Mm.
And then there's Willow Nightingale versus Momo Koga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is Mercedes' belt to win, right?
I'm assuming. I've read, I don't know who reported it, but I guess she extended her deal with Bushido Road. So I heard anywhere from 3 to 5 matches more. I don't know what that exactly entails. I don't know if does that include Strong? Are they gonna keep her in America only now? Does she live in Japan now? Because she was saying that she liked it there. So
it's a nice looking belt.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I like that they're doing more with it. I mean, that's coming from someone who we tried to do this in 2002 and didn't get no support from New Japan. So like seeing all the support that New Japan's giving the US brand is huge.
Right.
So I mean, like Okada's there, Tanahashi's there, like all the big guns are there, mostly because Super Juniors is happening right now. So you got all the junior heavyweights, and which is even better because a lot of times, Okada and Tanahashi, they're on a 10-man tag on the undercard. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes that kind of hurts the juniors because you're not as excited to see them when you saw like the biggest star of the promotion, just did his 10-man tag. It's like, well, we could head out now,
Yeah.
So at least they're selling out. Like they sold out Korakuen Hall for the first time in years, completely full. So that's great for them, and knowing that Tanahashi and Okada are both here, so that's good. Yeah.
No, that's a fucking a strong indicator that business is going the right way and that your Super Juniors are doing what you want them to do when you got your two main guys over here.
Yep.
And you're still moving tickets like that.
Yeah. Supposedly this is almost sold out, this Long Beach show, and that's a pretty big building.
What do you think the goal of New Japan Strong in America is? Real like a cable TV show, like what do you think?
I mean, I would feel like that they definitely do. They always do. That's one of New Japan's biggest and most talked about thing that they've always had for years is getting some sort of outlet in the United States. So they've done like the Access, and I remember when we hired Dave Marquez, who's a promoter in Southern California.
Wrestling from Hollywood.
Yes. Yeah. He came to 2 promotions to Southern California when he was in Southern California, and he had a TV deal, and he came to us, to New Japan, and then he came to UPW, which was Rick Bassman, and he had like Cena and all them at the time. Whichever place was going to hire him was going to get his TV deal. So I remember he had an interview with Simon Inoki. We were all there, not in the interview, but we were at the dojo training. And then when he left, I remember Simon called me and Rocky into the office and was like, all right, what do you know about this guy? Here's what he had to offer, and he says that he can get us on TV. And then we were both, thumbs up for Dave because he is a good guy and he knows TV. He's a lot like an Eric Bischoff. Like he knows how to work TV and formats and the structure of like a wrestling television show with that old school mentality, So, obviously we were all for it. Plus it gave us an opportunity to start, putting our show on television. And that's when we started to do New Japan USA at the time it was called, and we were trying to gain some sort of traction, with it. It was difficult because of everybody's schedules, like was all over. Because we had just started with Ring of Honor, so we were, there more and weren't in the dojo as much, and then training started slipping. But anyways, yeah. So the idea is always to get New Japan on US TV. Now, as far as making strong like its own division that was only in America, without the New Japan stars and New Japan logo and everything, it's just another indie,
It's an uphill battle.
Yeah, of course, right? So you do have to, have a little bit of the New Japan roster to be there to make it special, and they're doing it. They're doing it right. We asked a number of times to have big names come to our shows too, and at the time they just, Chono didn't like Inoki at the time. That was the big argument, So it wasn't it was LA Dojo, but it was the Inoki Dojo. So Chono wasn't letting Liger and all those guys. They would come train, but it was mostly like, hey, go to LA for 3 months and we'll bring you back in a new gimmick, get in shape. It was one of those deals.
Fresh coat of paint.
Yeah. So it was one of those deals. And we were looking at it like, oh, let's start running shows. Makabe's here, but he wasn't a big star then. Then he left here. And then in 2008, he goes and wins the belt. Now he's a big star. Well, fuck, that was, we helped get him there, and it just wasn't, it wasn't benefiting us at all. If anything, a couple of the guys came and, they got in really great shape, and then they went back and, it helped them, it gave them a break. So now that New Japan has that, with the new president that they have, he's very, very motivated to bring New Japan to America, which clearly for the past few years, even right before COVID, they were doing it pretty regularly and doing solid houses. The Chicago pay-per-view I did was full, a little over.
The 8-man you did, right?
Yeah. The big, like 3,000 people, and it was a big venue, and it was completely packed. So they are motivated to do that. Again, they are a live event business. So it's more important for them to sell out buildings as opposed to this, I'm sure they always want, to have that. They want that. But with New Japan World and American stars like Mercedes plugging New Japan World, that gets people to subscribe. I think that when she was announced, or it was talked about that she might be with New Japan,
their subscriptions went through the roof.
Yeah, I heard like 40,000 people subscribe. 40,000 times $10, even if they keep it for a few months, it's a nice bump in pay for the company that they didn't. That probably paid her contract and then some that she had done at that time. So it makes sense, like people always say like, oh, but they don't want ex-WWE guys. Well, New Japan World needs that rub and that exposure.
Their business model needs it.
Yeah, that's what it needs. And I think when she won the belt in like San Jose or something, I think once that match was announced, it instantly just sold out. Like, and they were there the year before. That was where Buddy Murphy wrestled Okada like the first time. And for me, I was like, man, I wish I was on that show, because that was one match I would have sat in the front row and just it was like excited to see something like that, two worlds colliding, really, But they're doing really, really good from an outsider's perspective. Obviously, knowing a little bit of the inside, yes, New Japan always wants TV in the US. Is it their top priority? Not their top, but again, selling out or close to selling out bigger venues is what we need, and what they look for to move in that right direction. So,
well, I'll tell you what we need. We need to figure out a schedule for next weekend. Because here's what we're looking at. We're going to have Night of Champions on Saturday,
Mm.
and then Double or Nothing on Sunday. So I'm thinking I'll take the stress off of you and I'll watch Night of Champions. Okay, and you can watch Double or Nothing. We'll circle back and meet in the middle.
That doesn't help me at all.
Okay, all right. So then here's what we'll do. I'll watch both. Okay. So basically
I'll watch Night of Champions. I'll give you that.
Okay. So we'll do a show on Sunday. We'll talk a little bit about Night of Champions and whatever other terrible bullshit takes place throughout the course of this week.
Okay.
And then maybe I'll watch Double or Nothing, and then we'll follow up a couple days later with a bonus episode.
Nice.
How does that sound to you?
Good. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do the bonus before the nonsense of Wednesday. So
yeah, that sounds good. All right, bud. Well,
yep.
1 hour, 11 minutes, about to be 11 seconds. This is episode number 7. We've made it 7 weeks. We haven't screamed at each other yet. We're still friends. We're still mostly on the air, except for my Twitter account. I think we're doing pretty solid work here, bud. How about you?
Yeah, so far just one social media suspension. We're okay for right now.
Fucking A. So then I guess everybody they'll be listening to this on Monday instead of hopefully listening to Kevin Patrick on Raw. I'm sorry. I'm gonna bury the guy until they change him. Because I can't. He talks like this, but and then throws out an adjective. Is ecstatic to be here. Just shut the fuck up. Anyway, this has been Podfluxxx episode number 7. We'll catch you all later. I'm gonna run the little video now. Ricky, you have a good night, bro.
All right, man. You too.